worship you for me. Come on, say, for all the things you've done for me. No one will worship you for me. No one can worship you for me. So here's my worship. All of my worship. Receive my worship. All of my. Come on, just give it to him right there. Here is my. All of my. Here's my worship, Lord. Receive it, all of mine. For you, Lord, you are worthy. And no one can worship you for me. When I think of all you've done for me, all the things you've done for me, no one deserves the glory but you, Lord. No one can worship you for me. So
good morning, and welcome to another edition of Tuesday Transformation Tidbits with Patrice, where we are helping you to overcome your obstacles. We're igniting the passion and the power and the potential that lies on the inside of you. We helping to change your way of thinking. And on this week, we're going to be talking about push. Last week, we talked about plunging into position, where we told you to get up and get prepared. We told you to speak the things that God has told you to speak. And then we went on to tell you, don't be scared. Don't be scared of the faces. Don't be scared of your assignment, but plunge into it. Place yourself into it and get ready and get started. Excuse me. On this morning, we're going to be talking about push. And what push is a transformation action to touch. You got to get out and you've got to go after to touch something. It's our responsibility to get up and to make our way into results. We have 43 days until the fourth quarter is over. Do you really believe that we're at our last 43 days in 2024? And in the fourth quarter, it's not just about wrapping up the year, but it's about settling the tone for the future. So we're just not going to wrap up the year in these last 43 days. But what we're going to do is we're going to set the tone for 2025. So 43 days to wrap up and to set up. So on today, I'm giving you a 43-day notice to change your situation. I want somebody to pop that into the comment section on this morning. I've got 43 days to change my situation. And on this morning, I've got the power to change it. I've got the power to go after it and to create the situation that's going to give me results. On today, I'm going to push. I'm going to push until I get results. In 2024, and even in this last quarter, I don't know about you, but there were days in 2024 when I just lacked motivation. There was days that, when I got up in the morning, I just didn't have any motivation to press forward. I wanted to go to my couch and I just wanted to stretch out on my couch. I wanted to put on some comfy clothes. I wanted to grab the remote and I wanted to get some emotional food. Rather it was ice cream, rather it was junk. I'm a sweet eater. I wanted to get that emotional food and I just wanted to feel comfortable. There were some days that I got up in 2024 that I called it my comfort slump. I wanted just to slump around in my house. And I had it to be careful because if you slump around too long, that whole atmosphere of slumpness will become familiar with you. There was days that the ideal of actually getting up and moving forward was kind of intimidating me. I would prefer to watch Lifetime. I would prefer to watch, the Netflix. And I'm not a good television watcher. I never have been from a kid forward, but I do have my days that if I'm not motivated, I will binge watch a show. If it's a show that I wanted to say, it could have 5 seasons with about 9 episodes. I will binge watch that show if I'm interested on the days that I wasn't motivated. And I want us to understand that Slumpville, we can go and visit Slumpville, but it's not a place that we want to reside. It's not a place that we want to stay. I want us to realize that in these last 43 days, of the year, we don't want to live in Slumpville. We want to get up. We want to change our clothes. We want to get out of those comfy clothes. We want to put that remote back down in our remote stand. And we want to get rid of that emotional food and go forward. We've got to move from the place that we are in order to get results. It is our responsibility in these last 43 days to do something, to create an action, to push until something happens. So when I thought about this, as I begin to be thinking a lot as we're going to the close of the year, what has transpired in 2024. I've been thinking a lot about, some of the obstacles that I've were presented with and some of the obstacles that I've turned into opportunities. And I've been thinking about 2024 as we come to the end. And there were things in 2024 that I really had to shut down. There was opportunities, obstacles that came my way that I turned in opportunities. But there are some relationships that I had to relinquish. There are some people that I don't even take serious anymore. There are some situations that may have occurred that I really had to shut down. And as I begin to think about it, I thought about the woman with the issue of blood, and I'm not going to go through her complete story on this morning, but when you get an opportunity, take the opportunity and just read it from Mark 5 version. When we think about this woman with the issue of blood, she had many challenges that she had to overcome. And just like us, as we're coming to the last quarter, there are some challenges that we need to overcome. She had some obstacles in her life that she just had to shut down. She had to shut those obstacles down because it was prohibiting her from pushing to get results. I dare you to shut obstacles down as we come through the last 43 days of 2024. Whatever is prohibiting you from getting results, it's time to shut the door on it. It's time to shut it down. It's time not to intermingle with it any longer. But let me tell you a little bit about what I was thinking when I was looking at the woman with the issue of blood. When I began to look at her life and I began to pattern her life after the life or after the challenges that we are facing now, there are some things that I thought that she had to shut down. The first thing we realized that she was a woman that had a physical condition. The Bible talks about that she had been bleeding for 12 years. And I want some of us to realize that that woman with the issue of blood, she had to shut down her illness. She could no longer accept the point that her illness was going to be for the rest of her life. She had to realize that in the midst of her illness, my mindset has to change because I know that I'm going after something to get results. So the first thing she had to shut down was her illness. The next thing the Bible talks about, it was for 12 years that she continuously suffered. Some of us been suffering all 2024. But one thing she had to do was to shut down timing. I want us to shut down timing, shut down the object that timing has prohibited us from getting results. We got to shut down that mindset that timing is of hand. Timing is not of hand. So she had to shut down her illness. She had to shut down timing. And then the Bible goes on to talk about this woman with the issue of blood. She went to many doctors looking for relief. She had an expectation from people. Some of us need to shut down the point of having an expectation from the people. Some of us got to shut down the point that we went to many people looking for relief and we did not get the expectation that we have. So now we're living in non-expectation. So another obstacle that stands in our way of us going after the results that God told us that we were going to get in 2024 is expectation. The Bible goes on and said that she spent a lot of her money, and as a result, she was depleted. She had no more resources. She was at a financial disadvantage. Some of us are at a financial disadvantage in our life, and we've got to shut down the mindset that I don't have, so I can't go after. It's prohibiting you from pushing. And the last thing, when we look at this woman with the issue of blood, that I want to pattern us after today, is the Bible says things begin to seem to get bad. They begin to seem to get worse. Her materialistic things was evaporating in front of her. So she had to shut down that she was not making any progress. On today, what is prohibiting you from progressing? What is it that you need to shut down in order for you to get up and push? Remember, I said push is a transaction. Push causes us to get action to done. It transforms us when we begin to push. When we look at this woman with the issue of blood, her story depends upon her. Her narrative of the conclusion of her life was something that she was writing. So she had to take full advantage of any opportunity that was coming her way. How many of us realize that when we stress, we lack structure? When we stress, we don't have the ability to get up and move and go forward. When we stress, a lot of times we lack motivation. And as I started out saying, I had days that I lacked motivation, days that I wanted to visit the Slumpville and just stay in my comfy clothes and just slump all around my home. But with this woman with the issue of blood, in order for her to get out and to go forward, she had to denounce some things in her life. She had to let some things go, and she had to push forward. She had to create a plan to get out of where she was. So what she did, she executed a plan to go after what it is she needed. How many of you can say that I need to execute a plan? I need somebody to write in the chat this morning. I've got a plan that I'm going to execute to go after what I want. She had to do something different in order to get a different result. On today, I challenge you in these 43 days that's remaining in 2024. I challenge you to get up and begin to activate something. It's activation time. You've got to get up and you've got to move. You've got to get up and you've got to create a plan of action. When I thought about this woman with the issue of blood, I thought about the day that we live in, and I realized we just came out of voting for the next president of the United States. But as I began to watch his action, he had an action, he has an action that he is pushing forward. I don't know about you, but he's already executing his plan for 2025. He's already putting into place the things that he needs to go after in order to ascertain whatever it is his vision is. Some of us, we're waiting for 2025 to get here to execute a plan. But I dare you on today to get yourself together and begin to push, begin to execute a plan of action to get the results that you need. So when we look at this woman with the issue of blood, she had some activation that she needed to do. Yeah, I heard somebody just say there's an exit plan that is needed. You got to exit out of Slumpville in order to get to results. So what was her activation plan? First of all, she had to hear. What is it that she had to hear? She had to hear what God was saying. She had to hear about God. And then she had to hear the things around her. So, in other words, her hearing needed to come from a negative place and be positioned into a tunnel of possibility. Then she had to see. She had to activate what was her focus. What was the end result that she was going after? So when you begin to activate your hearing and you begin to activate your seeing, what you're doing is creating an element of faith. My focus says that I want result. I want my issue of blood to be dried up. So in order for me to get results in my life, I've got to go after it. But before I can go after it, I have to be able to visualize it. I've got to be able to write it down and to focus. I've got to be able to write my vision and make it plain to me so that every day when I get up, I hear me speaking my vision and then I see my vision coming into fruition. So she had to activate her hearing. She had to activate her seeing, and then she had to activate her thinking. What were the things that she was going to think about? So when you're going after results, what you're thinking about, how am I going to ascertain the thing that I want? So her thought pattern had to be one that I accept what I see. My seeing is focusing on my end result. My seeing is focusing on my goal. So I'm activating my thinking. So when she got negative thoughts, what she had to do is return it to the sender. You know, sometimes we get mail out, and maybe you don't, but sometimes I get mail in my mailbox, and it's not mail that's necessarily for me. It's probably mail for someone who lived in my home before I lived in my home, or it's probably mail for somebody else who had the mailman just made an error. So what I do is I put on the envelope, do not accept the mail, return to sender. Person no longer lives here. With our thought pattern, we've got to return it to the sender. We've got to return it back to the person who creates negative thoughts for us. Why? Because I'm activating right thinking. So what was her activation plan? What plan was she executing? Her thought pattern was, if I could touch. She was creating a transformation action plan to push to get result. So in her mind, she said, if I could touch, she could see her going after to touch. And then she could hear in her mind herself saying, if I only could touch. How many of you can activate your mind to say, if I could touch, I can get result? So what was her action plan? She had to begin with taking ownership of what she needed and go after. You've got to take ownership for yourself. You can't wait for someone else to activate your hearing. You can't wait for someone else to activate your thinking or your action. You've got to activate your own thoughts. You've got to get that thing in your mind and say, if I could touch that thing that God promised me in 2024, if I could touch that thing that I'm going after, that vision, that plan, that purpose that God told me, I've got to go after it in order to get results. So, what was the woman with the issue of blood's action plan? While other people were pressing up against Jesus to see Jesus, she had a plan. What she did, the Bible says that she came up behind him. When she came up behind him, what she did, she had to go low in order to touch the hem of his garment. I don't know about you, but her action plan was that everybody else is moving and plunging him in the front, while everybody else is up in his face asking for things. I'm just going to go around the back. I'm just going to come up behind him. And when I come up behind him, because I'm going after results and I'm not going after attention, I just want to touch because I've already put in my mindset that if I touch him, I'll get results. If I go after him, I'll get results. I dare you on this morning to come up behind God, to go after him, to go low so that you can touch. When the Bible says when she went low, in my mind, I put she went low on her knees. She began to pray and ask God to develop in her what she needed to execute her plan. I thought in my mind that she began to get an action plan together while everybody else was going after the known thing, while they were doing the thing that was regular. In her mind, she thought, I've got to do something different in order to get a different result. I can't do what everyone else is doing because I'm looking for God to give me a result. I dare you in the last 43 days, as I'm charging you to get yourself together for results, I dare you to push. I dare you to push to the point until you're pulling on God. What I like so much about this woman with the issue of blood, she pushed so much her way in there. She had a determination that was great, that I've got to get results. I cannot stand where I'm standing at any longer. I've got to go after God and I've got to pull on him until I get his attention. I've got to pull on him until his attention yields a result, until he will know that someone had touched him. So the objective of the woman with the issue of blood was that everything that happened to her was going to shut down her faith. When you look at this story in the Bible, the whole objective was that her issues were made to shut down her faith. I want to tell us on today and encourage us to know that we've got to transform our thinking. Things come to us in life. Stumbling blocks come to us in life with the objective to shut down our faith, with the objective of to halt us, to stop us, to create a stumbling block. Things happen in our life to get us to go, as I said this morning, to lack motivation, to go to Slumpville and to live there. We don't want to live slumping around in Slumpville, but where we want to live at a place of result. So when we begin to look at the objective of the issues in life came to shut down her faith. But when we look at it again, the end result, the Bible says her faith made her whole. I got excited when I seen that because I held on to the faith, or I'm holding on to the faith. Whatever God has promised you for 2024, your faith is going to make you whole. If you go after with a push, you'll get results. You've got to do it in a different way. You can't do it in the way that everyone else is doing it, but you might have to go around the back way. You might have to fall on your knees and begin to ask God to help you. You might have to go low in order to touch him on today. But in your last 43 days of 2024, you've got to press. You've got to push. You've got to create a plan of action in order to get results. Her action plan yielded her to get results. What was her action plan? She had in her mind, when she activated her mindset, I've got to touch. Any stumbling blocks that come my way, I've got to have the determination to get over these stumbling blocks because my goal is to touch. On today, my Tuesday transformation tidbit is to push to create a transformative action. You've got to get a plan that's going to yield results. It is our responsibility to take ownership for what you need to have happen in your life. You've got to activate the thought pattern. If I could touch. And when you get that thought pattern inside of you, you've got to execute a plan of action. How to go after, to touch, to get results. If this woman with the issue of blood did not create an execution plan that was to have a plan of action, she would have never got anything she wanted. On today, I've got a 43-day notice that I'm giving to you. Create a plan of action to touch. If you could touch, if you could taste, if you could see, if you can hear, it will come into result. Hold on to your faith and have an amazing day on today. Shalom.